Hi, my name is Gordon Randall, and until recently I was a student at Stets before being ordained deacon within the Diocese of Winchester in July 2011. Philip Richer, who of course is one of your tutors at Stets, has asked me to talk briefly about the project that I did for module C9C10. Just firstly, just a few recommendations for you if you're going to be doing a project from that particular module, basically just based on how I simply went about it. I think the first thing to say is, if you can, at least choose a subject that you have some interest in. If you have a passion for that subject, it'll help you even more. Also, if you've got some pre-existing knowledge, if you've got some prior knowledge on what it is that you're going to be investigating and doing the project on, again, that will help enormously. For me, one of the key factors again that helped was that I knew that there was some pre-existing data out there that I could draw on. And I also knew people in the field who I could contact who were experts in terms of the subject that I was going to be talking about and looking at, and then obviously putting into the sort of final essay format. The subject that I talked about, the subject that I investigated and then wrote my essay on, was uncovering what helps and motivates people to give in proportion to their income. Again, just to give a little bit of background as to why I chose that, I'm the stewardship advisor in terms of my day job for the Diocese of Winchester. Therefore, I'm clearly interested in how people give and why they give and all those sorts of things. So this was going to be of use to me, not just in terms of a project that I was having to do for Stets, but something that I can then that I've then since been able to use within my own job situation. How I went about it, in terms of that pre-existing data that I had available to me, I knew out there before I even began that the Churches Together in Britain and Ireland Stewardship Network had done very recently a huge giving survey right across 6 denominations across the United Kingdom, producing in the region of 1,600 handwritten surveys from people who give to the church. Using various different pivot tables, I was able to cross-match several of those different questions to draw on them and pick out what it was that actually helped and motivated people specifically in terms of their giving in proportion to their incomes. Naturally, I also read quite a bit of literature. I picked up other surveys, not exactly the same surveys, but other surveys that had been done on giving. Plus I looked at various Christian books on giving. Some of those were books that I'd already had, some of those books were books that were recommended to me by other colleagues. A key aspect of this particular project, though, that really helped me, and it's certainly something that I'd recommend others to try, is that I ran some focus groups. I actually gathered people together, sat them down and got them talking about the subject that I was investigating, that I was looking at and trying to put together through the report. That was really, really fascinating and a really enjoyable part of the whole project. Gathered lots of verbatim comments, was able to compare and contrast different comments that people were coming out with. And again, to help me with that, rather than try and write everything down as I was going along, I recorded the comments. That was a brilliant tip that somebody gave me and proved to be really, really helpful. It meant all I need to do was just simply facilitate the discussion and then pick up the detail later when I listened to the recording simply back in my study. Another factor there, and this is just a bit of fun, but it did help, was that I motivated people to come simply by offering them tea, coffee and cake beforehand. It's amazing the difference it makes. Other things I did is I went out there and interviewed other stewardship professionals in this area of giving, and also sought the views and advice of the National Stewardship Advisor, a guy called John Preston, who was hugely helpful. So from that, all I'm simply saying is, don't be afraid to go and talk to the experts in the field. They'll want to tell you about the subject you're investigating because they too have a passion about it, and they'll hopefully be interested in the report that you're likely to produce. Having gathered all that information together, I then simply went about putting together some sort of introduction to say how I'd gone about it, briefly a sort of a summary of what I've just told you. Then just simply produced the findings, what had come from the pivot tables that I produced from the survey, what had come from the focus groups that I'd run, and the various different books that I'd read. And then drew together some conclusions and offered some recommendations. If you can go for something then that you've got a passion in, if you can go for something that you've got some pre-existing knowledge of, you should have a whole lot of fun putting together your particular project. Good luck with it. God bless.